Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Ageless Sisters, your global source for beauty and anti-aging, with your host, Cynthia Rowland, creator of Facial Magic and Luscious Lips.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's Cynthia Rowland here, and I'm so happy to be talking to all of my ageless sisters throughout the world. And today we have a most unusual, terrific guest. And we are going to talk today to an author and a lecturer who's written a book that just is so compelling. It's called Divine Design. Gail Minogue has written this book to help you and me understand and embrace our life path. Because so many women, they even ask me, what should I be doing with my life? And I'm kind of like throwing up my hands and saying, well, I don't know. What makes you happy? And after seeing this book that Gail wrote and reading through it, it's an easy read. It's called Divine Design, How You Created the Life You Are Living. You're going to understand yourself so much better. And I want you to know that Gail is just not some kind of girl who just said, oh, I'll be an astrologer or a numerologist, whatever, one of these days. Gail has spent over 20 years studying her craft. She studied sacred geometry, astrology, the laws of order, and has been putting together this book, and now her second book is coming, so that we can take from her abilities and mold them into our own understanding so that we create the life that we want with order and balance. So hello, Gail, and thank you for coming today.
Hello, Cynthia. I really appreciate being here with you. Thank you.
My pleasure. And as before we were going to air, we were trying to figure out how is it that we know one another, because I'm not sure if it was Mrs. Reagan's secretary that told me about you. I'm not sure how I know about you. But when I started following you, Gail, I realized very quickly that what you were sharing with the world is very pertinent information that deals with today's situations. And if you go to Gail's website, it's www.gailminogue.com. You can sign up for her newsletter and read about the trends that are happening a little bit, just a little bit of interesting stuff there in the world today. So, Gail,
yes.
What made you? How were you prompted to become a numerologist, leaving? You were in the commodities broker business.
Yeah, I'm still a licensed broker. I live in these two worlds. There's this man-made world that's sort of every day, and then I have this other world, which is like, I feel like a bridge. But I started to study this back in the early 80s, actually, and I never even talked about it to anybody because I didn't want to be looked upon as being nuts or, a turban-headed woman.
Charlatan or something.
Yeah, or a psychic nothing wrong with psychics, but I just didn't want that label in the work that I was doing in the mainstream world. But it's very compelling studies, and you go deeper into it, and you find that there is such an order, as you mentioned, that we are in an orderly fashion, that we come in with a program that we create prior to birth. It is all in your name and date of birth.
Okay, hold on just a second. We come in knowing what we're supposed to create. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that your opinion? Mine too.
Yes.
Mine too.
Yes.
And so when we look at the name that our parents have given us, that's no accident that we were named Cynthia Lynn Donaldson. Then.
No, and you may hate your name, and you say, if I loved me, I'd never name myself this, but that has nothing to do with it. It's almost like a formula. It's a blueprint, and you needed that formula to work with. So once you get here, you can call yourself anything you like, but you needed that first registration of this name, of this blueprint, and everything is there and in the date of birth. Mm-hmm. And you actually are very instrumental in choosing this prior to your reincarnating or prior to being born. You impressed this name upon your parents' subconscious to give to you. So you carry it with you, and you some people really do not like their names, and so they change them, and that's perfectly fine, but you never lose. It's like the foundation of this life. You never can lose it.
I gotcha. I never really cared for my name Cynthia too much because in the comic strips, Elmer Fudd's goat was named Cynthia. Okay? Now, probably nobody even remembers that except me because that was my name. Yeah. And I said to my mother, I said, how is it that you named me Cynthia when you named my sister Cheryl, Suzanne, or my other sister Candace? And I was thinking, how did I get stuck with Cynthia? And she says, I just thought it was the most beautiful name.
It's a very powerful name. There's a lot of information in that name. Very, very powerful. So that's really one reason why you chose it. You chose this. A lot of people won't. You call themselves Cynthia. They'll call themselves Cindy. But to think of the power of the name of Cynthia, it's not it's not Bob. It's not
right.
It's
right.
A very
well,
powerful
I
name.
used to be known as Cindy, but when I started, I worked for Jack LaLanne, and then I started getting into doing business things for myself, and I thought that Cindy sounded just too juvenile. And that if I changed my name back and signed my name and became Cynthia Rowland, that I would have a better shot at success.
You have more power. You have more power.
Yes. It certainly worked out that way.
That's right. That's
yes.
right.
So I hope every woman and man who is listening to this show today will step into that power that they have been given, and they don't even maybe realize it yet. But if they get your book, you walk us step by step into a lot of information. And I sat down here, and I've got all sorts of numbers here where I've added and written down my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and all my It's just fascinating once you can learn.
Yes.
Like I learned that I live in a 16:7 house. I didn't get that from your book. So I live in a house that's a very spiritual place. I guess that's what I've heard. What about a house that's a 6 house? Is that a spiritual house?
No. Well, every house has a different personality, so you always want to be aware of the unit of the condo, the unit of the apartment, or the unit of the house. What is that number? Because if it's one of your karmic numbers in your name, it tends to activate the issues that you need to fix. And so every house is great, but it has different personalities for each number. So if you moved into a 6th house, this is what I call a nest a nest number or family number or domestic number. Or
I always called it the love number.
Yeah, it's the love number. Well, actually, the 6 is ruled by Venus. So you have in that house more responsibility with family, community, service, issues about marriage, all that kind of stuff. Now, say that's one of your karmic lessons. You may not want to go in there because all kinds of situations can get created while you're in that house just to activate these karmic lessons for you to learn. And so, sometimes we have enough already. We don't need to do that. So it's very important to know your own blueprint and then the property you're going to move into. And that also applies to offices. You don't want to go into a certain office if it's not conducive to really what you're trying to do with your business. I mean, there's certain numbers I would never suggest for a person to move into if they're really going to have a very active business that say is going to meet the public or, I have a client in Chicago who has a gym, opened a private gym, and it was in a 7 office, or place. And it's like business died when he was in the other place. He had so much business when he moved into the 7, which is more of a quiet retreat, private number. It's not the kind you really want to attract that type of, say, walk-in business or such and like that.
Right.
It's all very telling.
It's all very telling, and I just want our listeners to know that I am booking my first ever session with Gail after probably next week, and I'm so anxious to learn more about my life path and, knowing my birth date, knowing my name. That's just where we start, isn't it? It's so simple.
Yes, and the blueprints are long. We usually check out way too early. A blueprint's at least 120 years, and we really don't free ourselves truly until about age 50.
Is that why you say that retirement is going away?
Yeah, retirement was never, the soul did not come here to retire. It came here to grow and have experiences and move into its own time frames to do things. So man-made time makes up retirement, which is artificial. Mm-hmm. So we pegged it at 65, which is kind of nutty because people are really revving up to free themselves around 50. And here they have to plan on how much money am I going to have and all that. But that's not what the soul is aspiring to at all. So fortunately, retirement is going away. It's a very artificial structure and all the problems that it entails. So we are going through this transformative period now in America, and it's one of the things it's dealing with is retirement.
Yeah.
All the problems, all the messes we've made, and that people won't have enough, or what are we going to do? And people are working in their 80s. That's not a problem. Yeah. But people don't plan on that. So what they do is they usually will check out by their 80s.
As in checking out is go on to their next life experience?
Yeah, go into their next form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, because they're planning on 65 is when they leave being relevant. And what happens is you're always relevant here. And I think that...
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, you have to understand that man-made laws may make you irrelevant, but that has nothing to do with who you are.
Right. Well, on your website, I read something very interesting, and that was that we're going to look back at history beginning in 2008 and realize that there has been a big shift that has occurred, or... What was the word you used? I don't remember because I read it a couple of days ago.
Well, there's a transformation going on that, is turning everything on its head. It really started in 2008, and the most intense years of it go through 2024. So we have a revisit of the time of the American Revolution almost for America. It's like we have to go back to our roots and what did we plan? Because remember, the country has its own blueprint. So from its date of birth.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
So when you look at that July 4th, is that the date that you look at the country's
blueprint? Yes, that's America's blueprint is July 4th, 1776. So America is revisiting, actually it's having a transit, and this is the first time it's happened to America since it was birthed in 1776. So you have issues that we've never really dealt with.
Wow.
And we're looking to see, well, this is what we started out wanting. Are we doing what we said we wanted? And that's why it's a mess. But
it is a mess, yes.
It's in process and it's in progress. And we're a catalyst for the world because we're like what I call the experimental station to try on the rights of the individual. And so we get to do it first.
Wow.
And then take what we learn and assimilate it out in the world. So we mess up and we fight and we do these things and we sell everything to the world, including Coca-Cola and, fashion and ideas. But that's because we are the experimental station for the individual. So there's a lot to that, to the blueprint of the United States. But right now, what you're seeing is changes in education system, big time changes in education system, big changes in the legal profession, the medical profession, everything. The social contract is being flipped.
It's being rewritten as we speak.
Yes. The social contract is what you're dealing with, which affects pretty much everybody.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Well, Gail, knowing that you have studied this blueprint, I know, for the United States, I know you studied it.
Yeah.
What is there anything you want to say to us or talk to us about this blueprint?
Well, if you can understand that the idea of work as we know it is being changed dramatically, and that everybody coming in from birth was their own they were all self-employed. I mean, we were all self-employed. What we have bought into is that your ability to create income or whatever can only come from, say, the post office if you work for the post office, or it can only come from Google if you work for Google. So, but always remember you're self-employed. And through this transition, as we contract, because that's what's happening in America, we are contracting. We are eliminating jobs. We're eliminating size. things are getting more miniature. And so as we do this, we're going to be relying on a different type of workforce that has very specialized skill. I call it boutique knowledge. So you want to be wise and not to be a generalist, but to really specialize. If you're going to be a coach, and there's a lot of coaches out there, then what's your specialty? And really build on it, and build on your niche. And always remember that the old way of working here is done. Okay,
that's going to be hard for people to wrap their mind around, I think, Gail.
Yes.
That the old way is over, and they have to open their mind and explore this new change and new way of thinking that is permeating the planet.
Yes, it is, and it's a necessary thing because, you could just take a look at. We see, as Emerson wrote, the years teach much that the days never knew. And if you can look back on this period, you will see why the importance of it, why we had to go through that, why we had to break down the financial system, why it's still broken down, and why over these next 12 years we're going to be working on changing these different parts of the social contract. And part of the working ability, money didn't go away. It's just being delivered in different ways. Mm-hmm. And so you want to be open to that, and that you were always what I call self-employed from the day you got here, so that you
I like that philosophy of yours, Gail, because I think everybody could have a sense of peace if they realized that they were self-employed from the day they got here, and not be so concerned about who they are, or let their jobs define them.
Yeah, letting their jobs define them, letting their retirement define them, letting their house define them. Mm-hmm. The true artist can diminish all the obstacles to starting over. So there's a lot of starting over going on. And
yes.
we want to get away from, I'm retiring at 65, really?
Or why?
Or I'm leaving the workplace at 72, really? Or, these artificial time frames that we have bought into. So one of the things that's really being affected is the health area. And this is very important because the body was really equipped to last longer than it is. And it's
okay, so wait. So you said this, the body was, say that one more time.
The body was equipped to last longer than it is.
So because of our disregard for health,
our inattention to the body, are not, we just kind of take it for granted, like it'll go everywhere with us.
Mm-hmm. And forever and ever, yeah.
Yeah, it'll just keep going, so we can keep doing this. And the reality is, no, it won't. And it has to stay relevant, and it has to be basically thanked, or at least acknowledged. So we need to pay attention to the body so that we can stay here and do what the soul wants to do.
So when you say to pay attention to your body, give me a couple of suggestions that resonate with you when you say that.
Well, for instance, a lot of people, they'll go out and they'll go to the gym and they'll work to build their muscles, but they did nothing really to match their real eating habits or their relaxing habits for this body to be able to, say, balance that working out hard in the gym or doing a marathon or whatever with what I would call calming things for the body, either meditation, and not all yoga is good for the body. Some of it is, some of it isn't. Mm-hmm. But to really say, if without my body, I'm not being able to do the things I'd like to do, what do you need? And even talk to it and let it tell you. And I think that right now people are just so way overstressed and way exhausted, and they just keep going.
Right. And that exhaustion and that stress has to have a negative impact on the health and well-being of your body.
Yeah, because they've forgotten. Everyone has forgotten what they came in with and what they have and who they are and all of these things. So
one of the things I see, Gail, is that there's a lot of anger in the world right now.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And can you speak to that? Can you tell us or maybe give us some hints about how we could maybe change our thinking a little bit?
Yeah. One of the things,
all starts in the mind. I know that.
It all starts in the mind, and there's a real element of distrust and an element of anger and frustration and exhaustion. And so
exhaustion too, yes.
one of the things that it's very important to do is to detach. And that's not so easy for everybody. Well, you tell that. But I've been a single mother. I have 4 grown children. I understand a lot of stuff that I look back and say, I don't know how I got through that. And I can remember my son saying to me once, Mom, are we poor? And I said, no, we're broke. That's a huge difference. So just carry on. And that's temporary. And we go through this. So we need to learn to detach from, people will say, they'll say that they recite the 23rd Psalm, and they'll say, yea, though I walk through the valley of death, right? And actually, I tell people, I said, you walk through it. You don't stay there. And
you're on your way through it. Exactly
I'm going through it. I'm coming out of it. And so detachment is essential. Breathing is essential. When you're speeding up to take a flight, you need to pause and calm down and breathe. I mean, simple as that. Just breathe. Stop yourself.
And smile.
And smile and breathe. But even counting to 10, and there's energy in each number, will automatically slow you down. That old expression, count to 10, there's merit in it because you're saying each vibrational energy force, and it calms you right away by counting to 10.
I didn't know that, but actually, when you said it, it just made perfect sense to me.
There's all these numbers we say, or, he's behind the 8 ball.
Right.
Or 6s and 7s, or, or addressed to the 9s, or the cat has 9 lives. I mean, we say these things, but we don't know why we do. But there's relevancy in each one of these statements. It's actually indicating information to you, but you don't really, you just think it's slang or fairy tale. But the whole idea of people being angry right now, it's frustration, it's disappointment, and a lot of indignation of the system, the injustice of the system right now. But right now, it's important to understand that corporations and government are sort of like bedfellows for a while. But that's not going to last either.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that won't last. But when you're in it, remember the valley of the shadow of death, when you're in it, it feels like it's going on forever.
Right.
But more and more will be exposed. Right now we're uncovering the dirt underneath the dirt.
And, okay, so uncovering the dirt underneath the dirt, and that's our valley of the shadow of death that we're walking through.
Yeah, but this is not permanent. When we finally get to about 2024, you're going to see a lot. You're going to look back, and you're going to see a lot of the necessary changes we had to do, and you begin to reverse a lot of the what we'll call more people orientation. What's good for the group, away from this corporate government, heavy-handed regulation, more security, heavy stuff, which is going on now.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay, so let me just back up a few feet that we talked just briefly on something, because I know that I'm looking at something you wrote, and I want to make sure that men and women understand from your viewpoint what this actually means, and that is, why is it our best and most effective years happen to us after the age of 50? And where a lot of people are these days, and they're looking for answers.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry, I kind of glossed over that, but I want to come back to that.
Okay. Well, it's a very good question, and a lot of people want to know, when a soul is on its journey, it takes about 30 years to get out of childhood.
30 years to get out of childhood. Okay.
So from 0 to age 30. We transition away in the late 20s. So we begin our adult life sort of really much more mature and ready to see what we'd like to step out at about 30, 31. Now, we're pretty much, this is the same. We want a house. We don't want to stay up all night drinking. We want to really get our careers. So we do that in our 30s, and by the time we're in our 40s, we're laying the foundation. So we work our buns off in our 40s. Do you remember 40 days and 40 nights and 40 years? And remember what the 40s were like even in America, the first time women went to work. And so the 40s are very hard working years. Once you get out of this, you can now free yourself. You've lived long enough. And these, when I say long enough, every 7th birthday, beginning at age 7, the soul goes through a soul cycle and downloads to itself everything it learned in the prior 7 years. Again, you do it at 14, at 21. At 28 is when you've had enough of what I call the body years, the mind years, and the emotion years. And now you integrate from 22 to 28, and you leave the childhood. So every 7th birthday, you move on to another state of awareness. By the time you've done 7 of these, or 7 times 7, which is the age of 49, you have integrated enough here to understand what you would like to do, what you shouldn't be doing anymore, all these things, and you begin to free yourself when that soul cycle year is over at age 50. So you start out, and unfortunately, our man-made cycle is geared for, well, you should be really doing your retirement stuff. I was like, wait a minute. So 50 is your pivotal year. In fact, 49, the age of 49 is sometimes a very painful birthday. There's a lot of big changes from 49 to 50. But you have an urgency of wanting to make some kind of change. This isn't right. I'm not want to do this, blah, blah, blah. Or I don't want to live here. And so it's a very, very important birthday. And then in the 50s, you begin to do these really what I call more of what you want, go in directions that you like. You may not, feel awkward. This is when the banker becomes an artist, or, it's weird. People say, what are you doing? You're leaving this. Well, you may have been only in that because your friends were in it when you were young. Your parents said you should do it. This is what society said you could make money doing, et cetera, et cetera. But you begin to free yourself in who and what you really want in your 50s.
That is so cool. Gail, you are just a wealth of information. And believe it or not, our time is really up. We've gone through that 30 minutes, just lickety-split.
It's great.
So let me just make sure that everybody knows where to find you. Gail's website is www.gailminogue.com. You can order her book there and grab it for yourself so that you can see what your life path is about. Maybe you are like the two girls I had lunch with the other day. They're just saying, well, what am I supposed to do? It's like, well, I don't know. But at least Gail can give you an idea. So, Gail, I want to thank you for you spending your time this morning with us. And I look forward to meeting you in person and doing a video shoot with you and making you part of our Ageless Sisters
Thank
Club.
you. It's wonderful. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks so much.
Yes. Bye, Gail.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Wow, what a wonderful woman. I just can't believe how knowledgeable she is. But, you have to give her credit. This woman has raised 4 children. She's been a commodities broker for over 14 years, a managing director for a Swiss textile firm. Hey, she has been around the world doing things. So I just want to thank you again, Gail, that you gave your time this morning so willingly for our show. Our next show coming up in the month of June is with a very special friend of mine. She's kind of a good friend, and her name is Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. And my sister is the one who introduced me to Dr. Tenpenny and said that she is like the Mother Teresa for modern-day medicine. Well, her specialty is working with women who have had and who have breast cancer. And one of her sayings is that when you have breast cancer, do nothing at the moment, and because that breast cancer has been developing itself for quite some time. So we're going to have a very fabulous show when she comes on the Ageless Sisters show June 6th. On that day, we will have her talking about breast cancer and what the new treatments are and what the new diagnosis tools are. So I think it's going to be a wonderful show. And before we leave, if any of you would like to have a free copy of The Magic of Facial Exercise, it is on Amazon.com, and it is free right now for a little while longer, and it's for a Kindle. So if you have a Kindle and you'd like to have that new The Magic of Facial Exercise book, you may have it free. So I thank all of you for listening today, and I look forward to our next show. And all of us are Ageless Sisters. Bye-bye for now.
You've been listening to the Ageless Sisters. Tune in again next time for the most up-to-date beauty and anti-aging secrets, tips, and shortcuts. Up-to-date beauty and anti-aging secrets, tips, and shortcuts. Up-to-date beauty and anti-aging secrets,